Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be putting a new engine in my wife's car because unfortunately it died. However, with this many miles on it, yeah, that says 422,000. It's not really surprising. You might ask why we still have the car. It was actually my Uncle Tony's car. He passed away a little over a year ago. We ended up getting it from him, and it's more sentimental than it is valuable monetarily, but I want to fix it, so I think it's worth it to put a new engine in. This one is actually one we ordered online. It has a 5-year warranty, which is fantastic. I'm excited to put this in. I can't wait to hear it. I did not order this from the scrapyard that I ordered my 3 other crappy engines from, so I anticipate it working. In case you can't see the breath coming out of me, it's cold. In fact, it's 27 degrees cold. Welcome to New England. So anyone who was fortunate enough to have watched the first few episodes will know that this site is extremely familiar. This is my 2006 Subaru Legacy Outback 2.5 XT. This engine came from a website that offers a 5-year, 100,000-mile warranty, which is great for a car we plan to keep for about 5 more years. First things first, of course, pull the battery out, disconnect the terminals, pull off the strap, pull the battery out, pull the tray out as well, because it's a good time to clean it, and usually it collects crap. I'm gonna go put it on a charger right now. Next, we're gonna drain all the fluids. Most Subaru engine removals are quite straightforward and require simple tooling. The drain plug on most modern radiators is made out of soft plastic and accepts Phillips head screwdrivers. To avoid damaging the drain plug, apply upward pressure with one hand while loosening with the other. Have a drain pan or bucket ready, as coolant splashes out far easier than most oils. At this point, with your drain pan or bucket correctly positioned, remove the radiator cap to increase the rate of flow by allowing air pressure to enter the top of the radiator. You'll see an increase of coolant flow out of the radiator, allowing it to drain properly and much more quickly. While that coolant's draining, we're going to take apart the top end here. We're just going to take off covers and pulleys and radiators and all that good stuff. There would otherwise be 2 clips here and here. Ours never had them though, so pop those out. Pull that cover right out. Go! Oh, it's gonna explode. It's gonna explode. I know it. I know it. I know it. I wanted to say real quick that in order to get the radiator out, you pull up on both corners and pop it out of the grippers on bottom. Grippers? You have to pop it up in each corner out of the grommets that hold it in at the bottom and shimmy it out from underneath the condenser. Just keep that in mind so you don't try to rip it up and out and break something. Our new engine doesn't come with any pulleys like power steering pumps or AC compressors, alternator, idlers, none of it. So we have to reuse those off of the old engine that's in the car. So we pull the radiator out to get good clearance to the front of the engine to use an air gun, electric gun, or even just a big ratchet. Now there's nothing in your way. It makes work a lot easier. That being said, let's pull those things off the engine, and then it's a few connectors from there. Then we work underneath the car, then we can pull the engine out. Let's do it. So unfortunately, the tensioner bolt broke. That goes right there. It's actually pretty common for these to get rusted and snap off. Luckily, you can buy these in Rock Auto. You can probably buy them at parts stores as well. I happen to have one because this has happened to me a couple times, but be aware of this, that this might be a hang-up. Alright, so that's almost all of the bell housing bolts out. I like to leave one in the top just in case anything happens. You don't want the engine to just fall and pull a wire, break a hose, break your face if you're under it. An easy to reach one, so you don't have to like maneuver somewhere to get it out if you're trying to pull the engine out when you're done. We're gonna undo the two motor mounts which hold the engine to the subframe itself, and then any other remaining pieces that I don't remember at the moment. Prior to removing the engine, you'll need to unfasten the bolts that hold the flywheel to the torque converter. You can access these bolts by removing an inspection cover underneath the intake manifold. There are 4 bolts that hold the torque converter to the flywheel. Once you've removed one, turn the crankshaft in the clockwise position to access the remaining bolts. Now in order to access those bolts, it requires a little bit of premeditation. You'll see just above where that access cover is sits your throttle body. The electrical connector for that throttle body blocks the opening that you need to get to those bolts. There's also a vacuum line coming off the throttle body that you need to pull, move out of the way so you can get more access to make sure you have a good clean line of sight on that bolt. Now it's going to be difficult to see those bolts, so you need to have a flashlight and maybe even a mirror handy. Now to actually get on those bolts, I use a long flex-headed ratchet so you have the angle you need to get in that gap and break that bolt free. I was able to pop them free, give them a couple turns on the ratchet, and then from there turn them by hand, and it was actually pretty easy. Typically, your last one is going to be a little bit harder to remove because now the weight of the transmission and the bell housing is all kind of on an angle because there's nothing holding it together once you loosen that bolt. Now in that event, I use what is probably my favorite ratchet. It's a 1/4 drive body with a 3/8 drive head on it. In my case, I've had the best luck with this ratchet. You can put some serious torque on it without risking damage to it. On either ratchet, I recommend using a shallow 6-point 12mm socket. That's going to give you the most amount of grip with the most amount of clearance needed to remove those bolts. Also, I do recommend having either an extendable magnet or a flexible magnet of some kind to be able to get those bolts if they do fall down. With that, let's move on to the bottom. Also something to keep in mind, the engine is mounted to the subframe via 2 studs that go down into it. In order to remove the engine, you lift the engine off the subframe enough to clear those studs, pull it forward enough to pull the studs that go through the transmission bell housing out, and then lift the engine out. In the interest of honesty, there are a few things that I forgot that I wanted to let you know about. For example, where these O2 sensors hang by that bracket needs to be removed from the engine because the O2 sensors are obviously in the exhaust. Also bear in mind that in each cylinder head there is a grounding strap. That will need to be removed if you wish to pull them off without busting those straps, which is important. Engine out. Word of advice when pulling an engine, make sure to have some absorbent pads laying around, such as these. These are called pig mats. They're fantastic, they're super absorbent, and they're easy to throw away when you're done. Make sure to check whatever safety guidelines and environmental guidelines are in your area, because most of the time, as far as I know, every time, you can't just throw out a rag soaked in oil or coolant. So be safe, protect your environment. But otherwise, that's it. Engine out. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this episode. That's all I've got for you guys today. Next episode, we're gonna dress up the new engine and get it ready to get installed, as well as 4 brand new shocks for all 4 corners of the vehicle. Considering we've just put a new engine in, I figured it's worth the investment to make the car just that much nicer. Anyway guys, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you tune in next time to watch how it turns out. I don't know how I ended up here. Genuinely. This is more Subaru in my life than I thought I was ever gonna have.